Welcome to the Misty Rambles, your mystical getaway into the realm of spirituality, crystals, the paranormal, and intriguing conspiracy theories. We are your hosts, Nicole and Corey, guiding you through the veils of the unknown, where we embark on a journey of discovery and wonder.
Join us as we delve into the hidden depths of ancient wisdom, exploring the power of crystals, unlocking the secrets of the universe, and unraveling the phenomena that surrounds us. From the whispers of the spirits to the mind-bending mysteries that challenge conventional beliefs, we dive headfirst into the uncharted territories of the metaphysical.
Each episode will gather around the digital campfire, sharing captivating stories and thought-provoking discussions that will leave you questioning reality itself. Whether you're a seasoned truth seeker or a curious skeptic, the Misty Rambles is your haven for expanding your consciousness and embracing the realms beyond our everyday existence.
So grab your favourite crystal, light a soothing incense, and open your mind to the extraordinary. It's time to embark on an adventure like no other. Welcome to
The Misty Rambles. Welcome, wanderers, to another captivating episode of the Misty Rambles. I'm your host Nicole, and Corey is here with us today.
I am indeed.
We are embarking on a thrilling adventure, might I add, through the mystical realm of Irish paranormal sites. From ancient castles to hauntingly beautiful landscapes, Ireland has an abundance of tales that have stood the test of time. So, I mean, we've a lot planned for this episode.
We do. We have quite a lot planned.
Yeah, and we've researched quite a bit as well. Like, we have 3 different locations each, I believe.
Yeah, we do.
We'll not give them away just yet, though. I suppose, do you want to get into... But firstly, we have to do a disclaimer.
We do.
Absolutely. So, before we continue, we'd like to add a quick disclaimer that we are about to speak about a lot of our own research and our own opinion.
Yeah.
So we don't want to share any incorrect information or insult anyone in any way. So this podcast is based on what we believe and what we have discovered, and it's also based around what other people's stories that we've found as well.
Yeah.
So just sit back, relax,
And
enjoy the journey you're about to be brought on. Alrighty. So, Corey, do you want to take us through our first location?
Little adventure.
Sure thing.
I will. So, I have notes.
Oh, notes, research.
Oh yes, plenty of it. So, today's topic is all about paranormal and our own little experiences that we've had. So, probably one of the main places I've been to, I've done a lot of this. So, I've been to quite a few places, and one of the best places I've done is probably Beaver Hospital.
I haven't even heard of this place.
No, it's now apartments. Which is even crazier. No, this is in Belfast.
Oh, okay. So there's another one in Cork, but go on. Sorry.
So Beaver Park was a cancer treatment hospital, and it's now, as I said, apartments. So the hospital, which was designed by Young and Mackenzie, opened as the Purdsey Burn Fever Hospital in 1906, which is quite a while ago.
Yeah.
It became the first regional centre for radiotherapy and chemotherapy treatments, and in 1983 the hospital was the first in the province to get the delivery of a CT scanner, which is mad.
That is mad.
1983. So then all the services were then transferred to the Belfast City Hospital, and it closed down in March 2006. And in June 2014 it was then sold to the developers, and the first of the show houses opened in June 2017. So that was probably one of the maddest places I've been to for paranormal.
Should you be even telling people you were there? I'm like, what are you doing? Yeah.
So when we went in, because it's apartments, there was a lot of people around us.
Yeah, okay.
So we were trying to be really discreet about getting in. So
don't mind us.
we found a gate or a bit of fencing, and we just lifted it up and ran underneath it and ran through the site to get to the first building.
Right.
And as soon as we got to the first building, we climbed in through the little window and we seen these 2 people, and they were standing at the fence where we had come in from. So we were like, there's security.
Damn.
We kind of let's just run around this place really quickly, get a couple of photos, and we'll leave.
Yeah.
And then we got halfway around the building and we didn't see these people again. So I was like, okay, where did they go? Because obviously they were in, and we then didn't know where they were. So we were like, let's just kind of keep going around. So then we got into one of the last buildings, and I could hear someone talking, and I was like, that could be the 2 lads that we seen, but then I wasn't sure. So I started shouting, hello, is there anyone in here? And there was no answer. I was like, they're probably scared because they don't know who we are.
Okay, naturally, yeah.
So I was like, let's just keep shouting hello, and they weren't answering. So everyone else in the group I was with was like, no, let's just leave. And I was like, I'm not leaving. I was like, we've come this far.
You're determined.
We were trying to find one part of the building that had a thing called the Iron Lung in it, which was...
The Iron Lung?
Yeah, so we are doing video on this episode. I will flash up a picture of what the Iron Lung is so people can see it.
Okay.
So then we got... as I was like, no, we're going to find this. So I started to walk up the stairs, and I was kind of peering my head around to find where these people were. And next minute I seen them, and my first reaction was just like, well, lads, how are ye? That was the first thing I said.
Of course.
And yeah, just didn't know what to say. It wasn't like, are you going to kill me? It was like, well, lads, how are ye? And so yeah, then we ended up chatting away to these two lads, and it turns out they were paranormal investigators.
Ah, stop.
So,
like the odds of that.
Yeah,
like I know a lot of people, like you can meet them, but
that time and and we weren't even going to go to this building at the time. Yeah. We were after being in another one, and we were like, look, it's getting late, will we go back to the Airbnb? I'm like, no, we'll go and see this, we're only across the road.
Stuck in.
And yeah, so then we started investigating with Gary and Neil. They were the two lads we met. And
you went with them?
Yeah, we went around the building then with them.
Okay.
And we started investigating, and that's when things started to get spooky, yes. So we were up in one of the rooms, and we could hear what sounded like someone was kind of talking away in the background. And I was kind of like, this is weird. This is obviously like, this was probably one of the first ever like paranormal investigations I was actually on, where we were doing it like full on.
What age were you?
Oh, this was only last year.
Oh my god.
This is how like it was only last year.
Okay, go on.
So when we went in, I could hear stuff, and I was like, look, it's probably just the wind. We're in an old building. There's half the windows are missing. So I was like, I'll be okay. And then we started chatting away to the spirits that were there. I say that very casually. We were chatting away to them.
It's a very casual podcast.
Yeah, it really is. So then we had the K2 device sitting on the chair, and for people who don't know what that is, it's an EMF detector which detects electromagnetic fields. So the spirits will use their energy to communicate with us. So this will light up from green all the way up to red. Red obviously being the most energy they're giving us. And as we started talking, another device was giving us names, and one of the names we got was Bobby. So we then said, is Bobby here with us? And it lit up to red. And we were like, okay, right, Bobby's obviously trying to communicate. So we started asking again and got another name. I think the other name we got was Tom, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
They were the two names that we got.
Right.
And whenever we asked questions, they were interacting with it, and it was going mad. And then we moved into... No, we were in that same room, and we were hearing noises throughout the building, and I was recording on my camera, which was lucky because I now have this evidence, which I can also put into this podcast. People will so people will actually be able to see the evidence that I caught that night. So what happened freaked me out when it happened. So you've obviously heard the little bit of audio that I showed. Mm-hmm. And you were freaked out by it.
It's like the most unsettling feeling. Like, I mean, we've all had that weird experience where we like hear something or feel something, but you actually let me listen to it first. Yeah. And I could nearly hear the weird vibe that was in that room. Yeah. And it was almost like I could actually nearly feel your heartbeat. And I was like, what? And then you showed me the clip, and then it just added to all the places. It added
because you can see there's nothing
like
there.
We're talking about it here with smiles on our face. Like, but when you actually see it, there's just a very unsettling vibe to it.
So I'll basically tell people what happened. So
sure.
As we were all standing here, I was recording Gary and Neil, and as I panned the camera around as we were asking questions, bear in mind this building has been closed down for a good few years, and it's been destroyed. There's parts of the walls falling down, so as you walk you can hear like the crunch and the wallpaper and all. So what I could hear was, it sounded like someone was walking towards me when we asked a question. And you could hear the footsteps going crunch, crunch, crunch.
Like, come on. Like, that is...
And then as I kept recording, we then got through the device. We said, who's here? And it said Satan. What? You did not see that part of the video.
So that's why you didn't show me everything.
That's
you
why
were
I
just
didn't
like,
show
you
you
wanted to
the whole
surprise me.
video.
Because me and Corey have been talking about like obviously what we were going to be covering today, and we didn't want to give away too much information. Like I was telling you a story earlier on, I didn't tell him like the ending of the story, but jeez.
Yeah, so that was...
I'm like, would you felt like from being in that place in particular, that there was an evil presence there, like?
I felt there was, yeah.
Something very negative. Like I know, right? It's common for spirit to talk about the demons and whatever, but then there's also the likes of that negative energy being formed into being like, oh, I want to be extra frightened towards these walking people on earth, because that's what it is.
And it was that feeling of like, what is this? Because
you knew it wasn't human.
I knew there was no way it could have been human, because we were on the second floor of this building, and where we heard the footsteps coming from, it was a little tiny corridor, and there was 2 rooms either side. And a wall. There was no staircase where someone could have come up. The staircase was actually the far side of the building, which made this even weirder, because as soon as we heard that, I then turned the camera off and I was like, what is this? So I ran down with my torch in my hand, shining the torch around, and I was like, there's no way anyone's here. There's a bathtub in the corner and there's a wall there. I was like, this is strange. So,
it's unexplainable essentially. And that was your overall experience.
That was the kind of the biggest one there. But then I do know Gary and Neil went back only a couple of months ago, and they were basically exploring the place and investigating it again, and they went back up to the same room and asked for whatever presence was there to make a noise, and they got 3 loud taps, and then the taps continued, and it was just like from the... Obviously Gary and Neil have...
Just not to interrupt you, but you said 3 taps. Have you never heard of that?
Yeah,
like the
knocking the Trinity. Yeah.
Oh, the way that you said that. Oh, I just got chills.
Yeah. Which was mad.
I'm actually speechless. Like, I feel weirdly emotional when I talk about that, because I think it's so frightening what's actually out there.
Yeah.
Like, I think we're talking about it and people are like, oh, like this is so ridiculous maybe, or then other people might be thinking, this girl's a Christian or whatever, like, you know, and loves the angels, loves the cards. But then it's like knowing that there's something out there that's capable of, you know, trying to intimidate you in that way, or have the power.
And I'd say that's probably what it was trying to do as it was walking towards us and saying Satan was here.
Exactly. That's why I was saying to you, did you feel that presence? And you said obviously there was something there, but it may not obviously been Satan himself.
No, it was. There was a dark energy in this hospital, because part of it was a children's hospital as well. So it was obviously, as you were walking through, you were kind of feeling this sense of sadness, because you were walking in and it was like there was Winnie the Pooh painted onto the windows and stuff, and you were walking in, and one of the parts I walked through, there was just a cot in an empty room, and I think that, I remember as I walked past, I kind of stopped and I was like, whoa.
It took you back.
Yeah, it was like a really weird feeling to be in this massive complex of buildings and to see a cot in an empty corridor, and it was just strange.
Also very unsettling at the same time, I imagine.
It was very unsettling.
Like, you know, I think it's like there's an awful lot. Like I haven't experienced something like that personally. Like I haven't been to an asylum or even an old hospital. I've always wanted to go to one, which means you have to go to one. But I would see clips online or photos, and like that, even alone, just seeing that would impact me. And I'm like, could you imagine doing that in person? It would hit
it's a whole other feeling being in the buildings.
The only thing I could relate to in that, and it's not even like paranormal, it would be the time that I went to Auschwitz for the first time, and it was actually like reliving memories that would have happened there. It's like abandonment, and it's like, whoa, and it gets so dark, and it's like, oh my god,
it is a very dark place to be in.
And there you go, it's the same thing. So that's interesting. So that's your first location.
That was the first location.
Oh my god,
I'm kind of saving the good ones for later on.
Right, okay, so I suppose I'll get into my first one. So my first one is going back to Carlow, of course. My I want to say my second home. I would have studied in Carlow for 5 years, and there was one place that everyone spoke about, and it was Duckett's Grove, and I'm sure you know of it.
I do.
Have you been actually?
I've only visited. I haven't actually investigated the building.
Okay, very interesting. So I would have been there. Like I remember hearing about it loads. I'll give you a bit of a background. So it was actually built in 1745, and it's a 2-story Georgian, thank you, country house, but it's a castle, do you know, but it was actually a home, but they call it a house.
Would have loved to have that as a house.
But yeah, honestly, and it's huge. The amount of rooms as well. You don't get lost in it. But yeah, Duckett family obviously owned it. And it was over the time that it's 12,000 acres, which is huge. There's
Massive.
private gardens at the back of it. There's even what's it called? Courtyard. That's as well. That's also a part of it. But yeah, so basically the bloodline of the Duckett family is traced back to William the Conqueror, which was King Edward I. And basically he left England for Ireland, and the last Duckett bloodline to live in the manor was William Dawson Duckett, who died in 1908. And then it was after that then a fire had destroyed the castle in 1933, which was on the 19th of April. But the story goes is that it's haunted by a young woman. Oh, there's so many theories behind this place because
just for people listening, I hate to interrupt you, but the smile that just came over your face as you were like, it's haunted.
Oh, I get so like excited about this, but like it's weird because there's a young woman that's there, and apparently she was having an affair with William Duckett. Okay, she's a young woman.
Yeah.
She fell off a horse of all ways to die. God love her.
It's the worst way.
So rest in peace. But there was a curse intended to bring misfortune and like eventual ruin to the family, and it was actually a spell. It was her mother that put it on it.
Oh wow.
So you're going back to now, like you're thinking like old Irish witchcraft,
Spells.
or
Yeah.
do you know, we don't know what she was capable of.
What they were actually doing.
Yeah, as I often say, words are spells. They're, you know, someone can just say, you know, I curse you and your land, and boom. So maybe that's what she was intending, and it did actually end up happening. Like, and the banshee is also heard around the gardens. Okay, so when I first went there, I remember I was actually met by a gardens man who like does all the keeping of the flowers.
Out of everything.
I'm really stereotypical creepy man, which, you know, no offence. But he came over and he started to say that he had actually witnessed the woman in the garden. And we didn't even know this story. We were going out there for a bit of fun. We were shooting it was a short kind of spooky kind of ghost.
What a perfect place to film it.
Yeah, it was only like 2 minutes long, and sure, we were really having fun. We didn't actually know the history of it, like to be honest. And I was so amazed that time when he started saying, oh yeah, like this is what I saw. I kid you not, what he saw was just like unexplainable. And you can find it online. It's actually, maybe we'll be able to put it up as well in the video.
Should be.
But it's like a blurred outline of a woman in the garden, and she's just pure white, but you can tell that she's wearing a dress. Now it's very much white, do you know, but blurred, and it was like her hair was in a bun. So that was fine, okay? That was fine.
That is mad, because that's what I've seen other people post on Instagram that they've caught there, and it's
Similar.
very similar to that, yeah.
Exactly. So then it would have been after that, then I remember I went and saw there was a paranormal society in Carlow, and of course I found them.
Of course.
So I reached out to them, and we actually wanted to get them on for a podcast, which wasn't like, you know, out live, it was just for a college assignment.
Yeah.
Got them on, and they started talking about Douglas Grove, and they're like, oh, we're doing a ticket sale for you to do an overnight stay on Halloween night. And I was like, sign me up straight away. So there was me and like 12 other people, and we were divided into two different groups of 6, and you had like 3 people that were part of the paranormal society and 3 on the other side, and you had your equipment and you walked around and the whole lot. So walked around, and like you're in complete darkness. Yeah, like I think the lead guy had his flashlight with him, and there was just like, there's actually the underground dungeons of the cave as well, or not the cave, sorry, the castle. And you can't get access to them. Like, it's nearly impossible. So for them to have gotten access was very, very rare. You can walk around the grounds of the castle, but to get inside and under there was tough.
Because I remember when I went there, I was like trying to find a way to get in. I was like,
and there's no way in.
Trying to open doors and all.
Completely barricaded.
Yeah,
like,
it's very protected.
Very protected. So we walked around, and like the story went was like they were talking about what they had found, and that there was a woman, they could get evidence of a woman upstairs, okay? And that there was also all these there was orbs, people were getting sick, and then there was a girl in our group that collapsed, like out of nowhere. So it was a very bizarre experience. But
definitely.
the most frightening experience about the castle, right? And it's the most weirdest thing is my boyfriend Bill, okay, he's from Carlow. And he had brought me out there not long ago, And I remember I was telling him, I was like, do you know, how do you feel when you're going up? So like we'd always go up at night, because I think everyone, even when you're a student in college, you're like, come on, let's go and do something a bit mad,
Yeah.
especially when it's Halloween and you're at home. So we'd drive up, and they have these like uplifting lights, I want to say.
Yeah.
And you're driving around, and like the fields are so well like maintained that you can just see the castle in these lights. So you're waiting to see this castle, and I swear to God, you see it, and it just makes you feel like you're going to get sick.
Yeah.
There's a very unsettling vibe of it. So we end up driving up anyway, and I remember the first time I drove there, I had an experience, but I hadn't told Bill about my experience at the time. So we were driving anyway, and he was like, "Do you ever see anything here?" And I says, "Yeah, I did actually." And he goes, "Okay." And he goes, I was like, "What about you?" He goes, "Yeah, I've been up here loads." And there was actually, there was one time I saw something. And then I was like, "Where?" And we both pointed at the same window.
That's mad.
And I tell you, the chills. So we drove round, rerouted. It's because you can't go really that far.
Yeah.
And both pointed at the same window. And I says, "What did you see?" He goes, "A woman." And I said, "So did I." Clear as day, both of us had seen this woman just standing at this archway window.
Yeah.
Oh my God, Corey. And like, there's just this awful vibe about it. I remember getting out of the car one time with another group of friends, and we were using like the ghost box on the phone. And I was like talking to the ghost box, and there was a girl with me, and she was clearly terrified. She's like, "I don't want to be here." I was like, "Right, let's go." And her name is Catherine. And then all of a sudden, the thing just goes, "Catherine." Like, we didn't say her name.
Yeah.
It just picked up on that straight away. We brought the dog with us one time as well, and the dog just was not settled. This is at night again. Dog was yelping, crying as we were getting closer to that exact window that me and Bill were in. So there's definitely like an awful lot of history there. It's not the most terrifying.
No, but I think there could be potential for maybe us to make a little visit to it.
Oh God, yeah,
and
absolutely.
see if we can. Like, I've all the equipment there. We could.
Yeah.
100%.
Absolutely, yeah. No, it's definitely a very interesting place to go and see, and even just to be there. Like, so many paranormal experts go out there, and they can't explain what is there. They definitely reckon that there's one out in the courtyard. There's one in the castle. There's meant to be a man in the base of the grounds, and then there's another one in the upstairs part where that window is, which is actually the exact same room where that woman had fainted.
That's mad.
So very interesting. But yeah, that's my first location.
It's a good one though.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Like, it's most old castles and manor houses especially, they would have seen a lot of history throughout the years.
Yeah.
And I think that's where...
Yeah, like, what's most interesting about it is the fact, like, you know, it's all to do with like a curse, like, you know, and how much badness had came upon that family afterwards with the fire and everything. And you're nearly thinking, like, you know, is there something still there that, like,
like what is actually...
Because there's nothing around the place. Like, it's a very unsettling vibe. Like, you don't see wildlife or anything like that. And you're kind of
it's
like...
very quiet.
Quiet and eerie. And you're kind of like, what is this? But from that, anyway, I will let you continue on to your second location.
So the next place I have, by chance, happens to be another hospital.
Oh my God.
But this one was a TB sanatorium, which... was a bit crazy.
Okay.
So it was opened in 1909 and designed to counter the tuberculosis epidemic, also known as the White Plague. It's a massive site. It's 22 acres, and there's two hospitals.
What was Grove again? That was only 22, like, thousand, or...
This one's 50. This one's 22 acres.
Oh, okay.
So it's nearly the same size as what.
It's not even. I thought it was bigger, but Duckett's Grove was 12,000.
Oh God! So it's nearly double.
It's a lot,
So
it's okay.
The site itself has 2 hospital buildings, a wooden church, houses, an X-ray building, and even more buildings. There's laundry rooms. There's so much.
You get lost in this place.
Oh yeah.
Easily, yeah.
So it then closed down in around 2010. This place closed.
Okay.
After it was used as TB, it was then Cork Mental Health took it over.
The fact that you even wanted to go to the hospital that had that is like terrifying.
Yeah, it was. I was on a mad road trip, so I'd actually visited this place twice.
Oh my God! Okay.
The first time I visited, I was with my mum, and obviously this was 2 years ago, and I didn't really think much about the paranormal when I was exploring these. I was mostly just taking photos and looking around.
Yeah.
But we had a few weird things happen. So this place is massive, and to get to it, you drive this long probably 2 or 3 kilometre drive through the woods. This hospital is in the middle of the
woods. It's like a stereotypical horror film with an asylum hospital in
the middle of the woods.
Nowhere, yeah.
It's terrifying driving up to it before you even get in. And you just drive up and you're greeted with these massive, massive green gates, and then you know you're there. And when we were there the first time, there was a few weird things happened. Like, I was walking down one of the rooms and it sounded like something got thrown.
Okay.
But I was like, oh, it's just the wind. I was like, it's nothing. There's nothing paranormal here. And then we could hear what sounded like someone talking.
Okay.
So the first thing that actually came into my mind when I heard that, I thought, there's someone squatting here. And I was like, we need to be careful about what rooms I go into. Trying to check each room before I went
squat, and I thought someone actually physically
No.
My brother's going to listen to this and be like, seriously.
You'd be like, seriously, Nicole. So yeah, that was kind of what I was afraid of when I walked in. And then there was a few other little things happened, like it sounded like people were kind of walking, but there was no one here with us.
Okay.
So that was the first experience I had there, and then the second one, you're going to laugh at this, I stayed the night in it.
You done what?
I got a tent. It was actually the trip when I met you, when I came in here to get...
Oh my god!
So going back to the first episode, how I met Nicole was I was getting a tent to go camping, and this was the camping trip. So we camped out in here, and it was during a thunderstorm, which was just crazy.
Oh, that would have been kind of cool yet frightening.
Yeah, so it was... The first thing we done was brought all the equipment in and just set up a little base camp in one of the buildings, and because there was a thunderstorm, we were like, it's going to be freezing cold in here, so we found this old electrical outlet box, and we built a little fire inside of it just to keep ourselves warm, and had that in the room with us, and then we had sausages and we baked potatoes and hot dogs and it was brilliant. And then we started investigating, and that's when everything kind of kicked off. Okay. So the kind of main thing that stood out to me was I was in the tent, my own tent, and I had my hand on my arms like that, just looking out. This was about probably 4 o'clock in the morning. I didn't sleep at all that night, and I was just looking out, and everyone else was in their tents. Some of them were sleeping, some of them were sitting up, and I seen what I thought was a black shadow just run past my face.
Like directly in front?
Like ran side by side. Like ran in front of my tent past me.
Okay.
And I was like, whoa. I was like, what's that? And I kind of sat up in my tent a bit, and as I looked I could see the shadow, and it was moving around the room, and I went out the door behind one of Dave's tent, and outside the door we had a music box, which if you walk past, the music starts playing. So
creepy. And the music is so creepy. As I
was following this shadow, I was just following it and went out the door, the music box started playing. And on the floor beside it there was a line of light rope, which is basically if you walk near it or if a vibration goes near it, it'll light up.
Okay.
And I watched this rope light up as the music box went. And as soon as whatever was there got to the end of the light rope, the music box stopped.
I'm laughing because I'm frightened.
Yeah, I was the same. There's a video of me, I think, and I'm just here like, something happened, and I was like, what is going on?
There's actually no explanation for that. Like, it's fair enough, like, oh, I seen something. But then for the music...
But for the music box and the other stuff to go off, I was sitting in the tent.
There's no coincidence there. It's like, no, it's literally clear as day.
And like everyone was in their tent, so it wasn't as if someone had walked out from our group. And then we were all sitting in the tent. We were after that we could then go up and investigate again, as you do.
Yeah.
And then we all went back into the tents, and we were trying to get like at least an hour's sleep before we drove to our next location. And we were upstairs then afterwards, and we heard what sounded like someone threw a brick at the building. It was extremely loud, and it was just a bang across the building. And we all turned and looked, and we were upstairs in one room, and there was another lad with us, and he was fast asleep in his tent. So we were like, okay, maybe there's someone here, because this location is also known for having raves in the church out of everywhere. So we thought, okay, maybe some of the kids had come up here. But at that hour of the night, and with no light coming from anywhere else in here except for the little fire that we had going, there was no one here. And that was just another thing that happened that night that we couldn't explain. And then just the same, like, weird noises throughout the building, kind of sound like someone was walking up towards you, and just weird stuff like that was happening throughout the night.
Just unexplainable.
Yeah, exactly. Unexplained stuff that we just, when you actually sit back and think, you're like, what was that? I don't know what that was, but is there a reason as to why that happened? And there wasn't, which frightened me.
Oh, when you search for this stuff,
it
just comes. Like, and I've actually had so many conversations with people like that in the shop as well, where like I've mentioned, you know, if you're really open to it, like a lot of people say I've never had an experience, and I'm like, oh, okay, and I'm like, but have you been looking for it? And they're like, no. I'm like,
well, maybe have a look.
That would be it. Like, if you ask for a sign, it's like anything. And when we ask for something, which we were talking about in our last episode, you will receive a sign. Very similar to that. Like, when you ask, "Are you there?"
Yeah.
You might just
something
get something
might come,
there.
yeah.
The only fear it is like, you know, it's like the time when you actually first came in here. I remember you were showing me pictures on your phone of like the black orbs, and I was like, "Corey, that's bad."
Yeah, that was. That's so weird. That actually, I caught that photo. So for people who don't know, I'll flash it up on camera. But I was sitting in my room one day, and I could see kind of this like black. Well, I could see like black dots in my room, and I was like, "What is this?" And they were kind of around where I have like my crystals and stuff. So I was like, "I wonder what this is." And I took a photo of it, and it was actually after we came back from Cork, when we were visiting this hospital when that happened. And what I caught on my phone, I don't know what it is. It's like eyes, like black eyes. It's a very strange photo.
I just remember you showing me all the dots, like, and I mean, I've taken photos and videos in my home where there would have been so much activity, and there'd be always white orbs, you know.
Black ones are
black. I remember researching orbs years ago, and black was always negative energy. Yeah. And I was like, "You need sage. Have you ever saged?" And you were like, "No."
I straight after you gave me that sage, I went home and just lit the sage everywhere. I was
literally like, if you don't do that, you're going to so many places. And I was like, "Oh my god!" And like, I just thought the harm. Yeah. I just kept on thinking of when I used to do cards and everything. I was like, that just.
And I think it's something I never really thought about when I started this. Like,
naturally, you don't.
Of protecting myself, like I had my bracelet, my crystal bracelets on, and I was like, that'll protect me. But
you think that, but then it's like you bring it home.
Yeah, and it's when you actually think about, I'm going into these buildings and I'm asking it to show itself to me, and then I'm like, yeah, but don't follow me home.
Yeah.
But like, is that spirit going to listen to me and be like, lad, I'm going to follow you home. I'm coming to see your bedroom tonight.
But it's so true. Like we just, it's protecting yourself is like one of the most important things ever.
Yeah.
Will I get on to my
I will let you, because I'm intrigued by this one.
Okay, so we're going to be doing the church.
The church, yeah.
The church. Okay, so there is 2 churches beside where I live back home. I won't say any names of anything. I don't even know the name of it. It's my dad that probably would, but I don't know.
I don't even know. I remember I tried to research this place and I couldn't find anything. There was nothing
weird.
Online.
Okay, so when I was born, in fact, my parents were developing our built house at the moment, so we would have been living in my great grandfather's home house.
Yeah.
And I was only a baby, and there's so many weird stories from this place. Okay, I don't have memories from my, like, it's not even toddler, from being a baby. I don't think anyone does.
No.
But I have one. Okay, and I can still remember the entire layout of our house, and I remember where my cot was based. But I also remember one night waking up, seeing something, not just, I don't want to say something, but I saw 2 people in hooded cloaks staring into the window watching my parents sleep.
Because that's not creepy at all.
Okay, that sounds crazy. For everyone listening, they're probably like, this one is making up a load of stories. I'm not. Because this was genuine. And I always remember that story. I remember saying it to my parents years on. Because I used to be like, I still remember the layout of the house.
Yeah.
And they used to be so confused as to how that was possible. Because I was like under a year old. Like I would have been there from 1 to 2, I want to say. And then we moved into the house that Dad built. So that was fine. Mum says that every time we used to walk down this road, where this church is, you'd never meet a car and you'd never meet anyone on the road. There was a very unsettling vibe, and Mum says that like I was very clearly eager to get home when I was on the road. Okay, very strange. So years goes on, we're back home, and I bump into this guy that I know. He's in my local secondary school, and we're talking about this church that he happens to now live beside. And I says, "Oh, it's hardly that church," and I had never been to it. I don't remember being to it even when I was young. And he was like, yeah, do you know the story of that church? And I says, no.
You
And
were
he
like,
was
please tell me.
So it's a Protestant church, okay? But he said that this church it's closed, like it's not active.
Yeah.
But there's like this weird rumour that there's a cult associated with this church. And I said, what?
Excuse me?
So instantly hooked as I tell me more. And he says there's actually a story that goes that there was 2 men walking home, because there's actually a pub not far down the road. This was now years back.
Yeah.
I want to say this was probably when my grandfather was alive. And when he was young, to be clear. And these 2 men were walking home from the pub, as they would have back in the day, because they wouldn't have really had cars. And they were approaching the church and said, we'll walk each other home, so we're on the same road. So they're approaching the church and they can see what looks to be a coffin outside this church, okay? So they're approaching and getting close, they're kind of squinting their eyes, and you can imagine it's quite like late at night. Like this is now like maybe 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning.
Why would there be a coffin that hour of the morning?
In the middle of the road.
Very early funeral.
Alright. And as they get closer, there's a line of people either side of the coffin. So there could be, he didn't actually get into specifics here, there could have been maybe, you can just imagine maybe 2 or 3 people either side of the coffin. But then he goes, they all wore hooded cloaks. So you just think back to what I saw.
I'm getting goosebumps.
Okay, this, again, I feel so weirdly emotional when I talk about these things, because it freaks me out. But yeah, so I was like, what? Like this is years on. Like, I mean, I would have been like maybe 14 when I heard this story, and like I used to tell my parents when I was like a toddler about the story that I remembered, and they used to be like, oh, it's just your imagination.
Yeah, they always like pass it off as if
yeah,
Nicole was dreaming.
Don't be frightened yourself. Then he said that the lads were like, oh well, as you would, kind of as a, like, you know, approaching this, you know, what are you doing, lads? You know, as country mean men do. And he said at the same time all of these people's heads turned and they red eyes. Okay.
That's freaky.
So frightening. Okay, this is the story. So I remember saying it to my dad, and dad was just like, okay. I was like, can we go out? Like, it's literally like a 2-minute drive. I was like, can we go down? He was like, yeah, we'll go down. So we go down. Again, remember, it's a non-active church.
Yeah.
So we find candles all outside the church. Okay, I have all this on video.
That's so weird.
And we go out, and I'm like, Dad, there's candles, and he's like, yeah, that's kind of strange. And I'm like, yeah, this isn't meant to be inactive. I'm like, hey, yeah, kind of odd. So we get in, and there's a very, again, unsettling vibe. You never meet traffic, you never see a person, and it's like, it should be a busy road. You know, you would think it's not like it's out in the middle of nowhere, but you never meet anyone on the road. We go in, and the first thing I find is a jawbone on the floor of the, like, as you enter. I remember just picking it up, and my dad was like, don't take
just
that.
Put that back.
Because the saying goes, is anything you take out of that church, just
you bring it back.
It's just like, literally dad was like, don't bring that back. I says, why not? Like,
like I want to bring it home.
As weird as that sounds, but he was like, no, he was like, it's actually a thing that you're not meant to bring anything out of this church. He's like, just leave it there. So we investigate. I remember doing the investigation. I had the camera and I had the voice recorder with me. I didn't have the pleasure of having a spirit box at that age. I did want one, and I was trying to record it, and we never really had an experience there, I want to say. I didn't really do a full-on investigation, but there was one time I remember I got the app. This would have been years on. I had gotten the app of the spirit app, the ghost box. And I remember it was scanning through, and I remember being like, is there anything there? And it was like, behind you. And then all of these crows come out of nowhere. Okay, and like I remember turning around, and like I was with my ex-boyfriend at the time, and he was like, that is a clear indication to get out of here. So we just hopped, and it was a very unsettling vibe that came over me, so we left. I haven't been there in years, and literally lives out like down the road from me, but weird vibe, weird stories behind it, and I actually have always questioned if there is a cult now associated in Littleton.
I am very shocked because I've actually been to this place as well.
Okay. I'm shocked.
And as you said behind you, that your ghost box said behind you, when I was there,
no.
Mine said behind you.
No.
And then left.
Stop.
And it was guiding me to a grave.
Cry.
And it gave me a name on a grave.
What was the name?
It said Smith, but when I checked, I couldn't find a Smith in the graveyard.
I really thought you were going to say Sarah there, and I had chills because I remember I really wanted to go to that grave to find out a woman's name. Yeah. I was very drawn to the name Sarah.
No, this one said Smith, and I searched. because I was facing
Okay.
the window of the church and it said behind you, so then I turned and then it said left, so it was guiding me to a grave somewhere.
Unmarked grave, maybe.
It could have been.
Yeah.
But how old the church is, it's a possibility.
Very possibility, yeah.
And I then set up a REM pod on a grave. And I remember, as it was telling me to go to left, I left the REM pod on the grave. And for people who don't know, the REM pod, it's a little tiny device. And
Circular?
yeah, my one is like probably this big.
They're
It's
quite-
rectangular. And it has a big antenna that comes out of it. And if you go near it, it'll go beep, 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 beep. It's really loud and really frightens you. So I just remember, as it was guiding me to this grave, the REM pod was still on the other grave, and the REM pod went crazy. Like, I mean, this is probably the only time I've ever had a REM pod go off was at that church. And it just went beep, 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 and just went mad, 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 and then it stopped. And then it went off again, and the REM pod then fell over.
There's something there. Like, I mean, it's very clear that either there's something like sinister may have happened on the
Yeah.
location, I'm not sure, but like there's just a very unsettling vibe there. And again, I know we say that about every location, but it's the weirdness of never meeting somebody on the road. Like, there's locals that live there, there's no cars on the road, like it is a main, not a main road, but it's not like
It's a fairly travelled road.
exactly. Do you know, that's the
And
thing.
the
Like, we
other-
would have used that church or that road loads of times. It's not just going to the church, but just getting somewhere, and you never meet anyone.
Never
and I'm
see
like,
anyone.
what is with that?
When we got there, I'd been to it twice, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, so the second time I went there, we parked up the car at the gate, and there was flies everywhere.
That's so weird you say that, because on the main entrance where them candles were, there was flies everywhere. Now, I thought it was the heat. I was thinking it's
Yeah.
summertime. But like, then when you find the jawbone, you're there thinking, what is
Yeah.
going on? But go on, sorry.
But there was just flies everywhere, and they came out of nowhere and just surrounded the car, and like, we were sitting in the car and we were like, do we get out? And we were like, if we get out, they're all going to get into the car. So we were trying to like do it
Maneuver
quietly without the flies seeing us. It sounds crazy, but like we were there like trying to
Maneuvering
fan the
out.
flies away and
Yeah.
stuff, and it was just, that was probably the weird feeling
It's
I
a
got.
very unsettled place.
And then you cross the little hole in the fence, and then you're walking through the field up to it, and it was just like, what am I doing? And you're walking up to it, and you're just seeing this big church building, and it's really imposing as you're walking up to
Yeah.
it. Like, it's just a big steeple, and it's
Yeah.
like, whoa.
Yeah. It's a strange place, and it's just even weirder that it's just beside me. And
Yeah.
there was the weird draw to it, and
So-
then the coincidence of the stories. There
We will
the
definitely
hooded
be visiting.
folk. So I am curious whether it's maybe there was a cult that happened there many years ago.
It's
and
a possibility,
And
yeah.
the haunting still remain. That's what I'm thinking.
Could
So.
be.
Okay, so we're on to our last location, and I suppose the specialness of this is that it's actually the same one that we both have.
Yeah, which is mad, because we kind of didn't really talk about these.
No.
We kind of just sent a text and we're like, look, let's research 3 places we've been to that's haunted, and
Yeah.
I came in and I showed you my tree, and you were like, oh my god, I have the same one as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
But you actually had it first on your list, which is mad.
Yeah, it's like my favourite place.
Yeah.
The
I
one-
actually had it last because of just how crazy it was for me.
Yeah, I
and
don't know why. I suppose I should have narrowed it down better, but I suppose we'll say what it is.
yeah, it's the Hellfire Club,
Hellfire Club, yeah. It's
which is very well known.
oh, I think everyone in Ireland knows about it. To be
Everyone
honest.
and their dog knows the history, the story that goes along with this.
Yeah.
I'd say a lot of people have been to it as well,
Yeah,
because
like-
it's not as if it's a little abandoned hospital or a castle. It's a very well-known place in Ireland.
Yeah, and for anyone that doesn't know about it, like I suppose we can go into the history of it as well. Like, it's actually an ancient passage grave, with a cairn of stone stacked on top, and it's on Mount Pellier.
Montpellier Hill.
Hill, yeah. So it was a building lodge anyway, and what was it, like sometime later, wasn't the roof was actually like blown off during a
Yeah,
storm?
it was in 1725.
Yeah.
I think was when it was burnt down, and then it was then built as the hunting lodge then, and the stones that were in the cairn were used as the lintels for the fireplace,
But
which I think is just crazy.
oh, it's crazy.
They
Then-
basically disturbed the grave to build this, which they wonder why it's haunted.
Yeah, honest to God, not even haunted. Like, I mean, it's actually just
It's
like,
cursed, I'd say.
It's definitely just pure sinister.
Yeah,
It wasn't. There was a death then. Connolly
Yeah, Connolly's dad.
William Connolly.
Yeah.
So he died, and then it was Richard Parsons who became the founder of it in 1735.
Yeah, who was also known for dabbling in black magic.
Like, what?
Like, that's...
Are you well?
That just proves...
Are you well? Oh my god. And then it says, its members met at locations across Dublin and were known for their immoral behaviour and debauchery involving alcohol and sex.
Yeah.
Secrecy surrounding the club led to speculation, and its members were Satanists and devil worshippers. So the president was actually named the King of Hell and dressed like Satan with horns, wings and hooves, and the members were also said to set a place at each meeting for the devil in hope that he'd attend. So they wanted him to attend.
Wanted him
Reminds
to be there.
me of another location which I know we'll get talking to down the line, and it's Loftus Hall, where we have like the Hooved Man who comes in.
Which is now a hotel, which is crazy.
Yeah, and like it actually, there was a story I found on this as well. Like, we don't want to go too into the history of this, but I suppose, wasn't it that there was a man that came and he had hooves? Like, there was a card that dropped. They went to pick up the card and they saw that he had hooves. Similar to the story.
It's very similar to Loftus Hall. Yeah.
Now I know some people say Loftus Hall may not be haunted, it could be just made up story to draw in the tourists or whatever, but there is a bit of weird vibe out in that place too, to be honest. But the more important part of this is our mad experiences there. And oh my god, I want to go back and I also don't want to ever go back.
I think out of all the places, I think this is one that the two of us should visit and do a proper investigation because
Can't wait.
And we'll record it, and
it'll
be, I think it would be a very interesting one because we've both had experiences in this building. They've both been crazy experiences.
Yeah.
And just knowing the history of this place kind of shows that there is something here, but you have to find it.
Oh, absolutely. And like, I mean, I was so drawn for so many years, and like my parents brought me first. That was my, like, when I first went there, and it was during the day, nothing special. Went up, wanted to find evidence, like, you know, during the day, which, I mean, it is possible, absolutely, and we did actually have something, but I wasn't frightened because it was kids hanging out of it, so I would recommend going at night, but then also not recommend going at night because it's really dangerous.
It's a tourist trap of a place, is what I would say it is. It's very like...
The unsafety of it then as well is like there has been, again, this is quite graphic, but there's been cases of rape and of course then people getting mugged and stabbed, and
it's a very strange place, and the fact that stuff still happens there today, like
all negative.
Like people even have raves up here, which I think is just...
That's just crazy.
I think it's just mad. Like, that is a long hike up that hill. And to go up that hill just to have a rave, I think is mad.
Right, we should go and set up our own rave up there.
I think we should.
Why not? Like,
just play the podcast.
Join us. But yeah, so I remember my parents brought me up first.
Yeah.
Went with my brother. Had the gear, which was literally just my camera and my little voice recorder that I got on Amazon. Or eBay, actually. That was a big thing at the time. Went up, started investigating the whole room, and we actually met a paranormal guy up there who was also investigating. But we never got talking to him. I was like, you know, I'm young. You probably don't. I was only like 15, I think, at the time, maybe 16 at most. And that was fine. So went up anyway and was walking around. Very creepy vibe, but not what I wanted to do, as in I wanted to be there when it was quiet. But we went out the back where there's a standing stone.
Yeah.
Obviously the forest and everything is meant to be haunted as well, I believe, because I know Ghost Adventures have been there.
They had a crazy experience there.
Crazy experience. And even in the forest. Yeah. And I was like, whoa. So I was kind of even hoping, but the forest was so busy and there was flies everywhere, and I was like, no, we need to leave. But I remember listening back to my voice recorder after asking a question at the standing stone. Is about the Aloe cat, because it was said that there was a cat that was based around.
The priest walked up and he'd seen they were basically sacrificing a cat up there, a big black cat.
Big black cat.
And that cat's still known to be seen at the little house as you come down the hill. As
well as a story about the man who was a farmer and he went to investigate and he was found then the next day. Did you ever hear about this one?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, a farmer was curious about what was going on. So he was actually trying to see what was happening from a distance, and they caught him. They brought him in, and the next day he was found and he couldn't even remember his own name.
Oh my god.
Yeah, weird story. But then we were heading home anyway, like I was saying, with my mum, my dad, my brother.
Yeah.
Nothing really happened. And I was re-listening back to that little voice recorder. Keep in mind, this is my first time going. It's the second time I go is not okay. But I was after asking the question about the Aloe cat.
Yeah.
And there was a massive distortion. and there was no wind. We were behind the building, which would have been blocking the wind because it was actually blowing north.
Yeah.
And just could hear this really weird distortion, and Dad was like, "You've picked up something, but you
It's
just..."
definitely something, yeah.
But we couldn't translate it. So that was that. But before I get into my next part of my story, I'll let you take the lead. Go ahead. Tell me what you found.
So we decided, we were like, look, let's go up to the Hellfire Club because why not?
Why not?
And we were like, sure, going in daytime, yeah, grand, people there. So we were like, let's go at 11 o'clock at night. And we were like, perfect time to go there.
Yeah, great
So
idea.
as we got there, it was probably actually a little earlier than 11 because the car park was still open. So as we got there, the car park closes, so we were all parked out on the road. We had about 3 or 4 cars lined up the road, and as everyone was leaving, we were the mad people walking in, and it looked crazy because I was carrying a garden table up with me. I get into why we had that a little bit. So we then walked up the mountain, and of course we took the short route, which was not the short route. It was actually the harder route because we just went straight up the side of the mountain.
I've done it twice actually,
Yeah.
so it's okay.
So we eventually got up to the top,
Okay.
and as we got there, it was dark and there was still people in there. So we were like, look, we're not going to start investigating while there are people here. It's just going to ruin it. They're going to want to stay because of what we're doing. So we decided we'd have a little picnic.
Why not?
Yeah, so they then eventually came out probably 20 minutes later, and we were like, look, time to start. So we all went in, and as soon as you walk in that little door, it's just, it hits you, that vibe
there's
of like,
something like I can't even seeing it as you're walking up, you're like, it's not that bad, but as soon as you go in,
as soon as you walk in the door, it's like it hits you, and it's like,
so small,
you're here now.
yet so big.
Yeah.
If you get me, it's like you go in and it's like you're deceived by how it looks on the outside.
Yeah. And we then started investigating, and there wasn't much happening, and then there was a lot happening.
Okay.
So going back to why we had the table, we were trying to do a thing called table tipping, which is where it's nearly like what you do with a Ouija board, where you put your finger on the table.
Oh my God, you did
So
not.
we all had our fingers on the table, and I'm demonstrating here because there's a table in front of me, and we were asking like, can you move the table?
Okay.
And the table lifted a little bit. And then we were like, okay, so we were like, can you move the table now another way? And the table, you could hear, because the floor was like
I've
gravel.
heard of table tipping before. Like, I mean, it's very common for mediums to use it.
Yeah.
I have heard it being an old kind of, as in it was an old way of conning people.
Yeah.
Years ago. But it does actually.
And
exist.
because the ground is gravel in there, we could hear the table like moving around
Gritty.
on the gravel. Yeah, like the grit moving. So that was when we were like, whoa, we were like, this is actually moving.
Here, yeah.
And then we went down the steps into, so as you go in, there's basically 2 staircases.
Yeah.
You go up one step and there's a room, and then you're up the next set of stairs and you're up into the main part of the top building.
Most
So-
part.
Yeah. So we were halfway in the halfway level, and we were just asking questions, and we said, if there's anyone here, can you clap 3 times? And we went, and then in the distance you could hear,
Stop. Clear as day.
we heard it clear as day. Like, I have it on camera. And as we heard it, we all reacted, but you had to up the volume so much in the video to hear it.
Because it was so quick when
But you
reacted.
really could hear it as we were standing there, and it was so, like, that I ran out with my torch to see if there was someone
Someone
here,
there,
because
yeah.
I was like, right, if there's
'Cause
someone
it
here,
is common, like.
it's common that people
Yeah.
walk up here at night,
Yeah.
which is crazy.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to see if there was someone outside that was listening to us and clapping along to try and freak us out, because when it clapped, we all freaked out, we all screamed, and we were like, oh my God. So that was probably like the mad part, and then devices going off, and then just hearing weird sounds in the background, like, it was like as if you could hear people mumbling.
Weirdly enough, had, I want to say, a similar experience when I went there the second time.
Yeah,
There's like a distance, and it's almost like you're being drawn to go somewhere.
yeah.
And I
It's
felt
like as
I
if
was-
it's telling you to go to a room. It's like,
Yeah.
you
I
hear the
got
mumbling
that.
in one part, and then you go to that part, and it's like it moves somewhere else in the room, and you're like,
Yeah.
where is it now?
I get Blair Witch vibes off this whole place.
Definitely.
Completely weird Blair Witch vibes. It's like, oh, I hear a voice, I follow, and it's not there, and then you're drawn somewhere
Yeah.
else, which is a sign of something not good there,
No.
you know, straight away. Is that your experience?
That's
there?
my experience.
Are you ready for mine?
I'm absolutely ready for
God,
this one.
I'm so frightened of this, but I really can't wait to go back sometime. But we went up, I was doing, again, another assignment, of course, radio documentary. So shout out to Rolf. He was my lecturer, and I remember telling him where I was going. He was just like, right, okay. He's like, do you know, like, you can do this somewhere else? And I was like, yeah, no, I want to go up here. And then he was like, okay. So I remember again with my ex, the same guy I was with for the other ones, and was dragging him everywhere. So we drove up anyway, and it was just before Christmas, so you'd imagine it was getting dark.
Yeah,
quite
really
early. Didn't think that through, and I landed and I was like, oh my God, I'm only after thinking that, like, all of the stories that happened up here, like people getting stabbed, people getting mugged, so on and so forth. And it's like, why did you bring me here? And I was like, because I have to do my radio documentary. So we get up, hoarding all this equipment. Like, we've got the boom mic, we've got the microphone, we've got the Zoom, we've got the camera, we've got the whole lot. And there's people on the way up with us. So we're kind of thinking, this isn't so bad. As soon as we get up
It's not
to
scary at all.
yeah, but as soon as we get up to the top, everyone's gone. Okay, we're on our own now. And I'm like, where did they go? They left quick. I was like, that's frightening. So that was fine. Get up to the top. And I had this really weird draw straight away to that top left-hand side window. Alright, draw straight away. So I'm like, it doesn't look that frightening. It looks really pretty because you can see the city lights.
City lights,
Do you know, and you're like, that's not too bad. As soon as you go in, place was frightening. Just complete deadness. And I was like, oh, I've made a mistake. So there I am setting up the equipment, walking around, and I'm going around downstairs, and I'm like, this is okay. It's quite flooded as well for the time we went. We started going upstairs, and I could see that room. And I was like, I'll leave that room till the end, okay? So I go back up the stairs, and I go into the room on the right hand side first. And I was like, I don't feel too scared in here. And I was like, I think this is meant to be like the kitchen area. And listening back, when I had said that, there was actually the sound of something smashing, like as if it was a plate.
You
And I
actually
remember-
played this for me before we started.
Uh-huh.
And you had told me there was two noises to hear for. You said the plate,
Yeah.
and then you said the other one, which I'll let you get into yourself.
Yeah.
But I'd actually heard something else in the
Which
video
I
as
didn't
well.
hear. Yeah,
Which
so
you
I-
didn't hear.
Which is when I go into the next room. So I'm kind of given an explanation, as you imagine a radio documentary is like a podcast. You're just explaining the room and the history of the area you're in. So I'm going through the room and I'm walking behind. You can clearly hear us walking on that kind of gravel sound that you were talking about. And then I said, if there's anything here, can you give me a sign? And you had heard something that I didn't hear, which we still don't know what it is yet.
Yeah.
But straight away, like, I want to say, like, maybe 5 seconds later, you can hear, get out. Clear as crisp. Like, there was nothing there. There was no one influencing that. And instantly, like, I didn't hear it because I'm just using the Zoom mic. I didn't have earphones. I was not prepared for this whatsoever. But something came over me to actually leave. Because I was showing you that we only done 3 more recordings after that, which were all outside because I needed to get Atmos sound. So I go down the stairs and I see that room that I hadn't been in. And this is where the room is meant to be, where they've ripped up the Bible, they've done sacrifices in this room. And it was the darkest and deepest room to go into. But something told me to not go in. So I started to walk down the stairs, and I kid you not, I could feel this shadow rise up against my head, and it was almost like it was pushing me out of this room.
Yeah.
It was definitely one of the most frightening things I've ever experienced in my life. And we were leaving, and I rang my mum, and I was kind of frightened, and I was like, you're not going to believe what we caught, whatever, like, you know, and she was like, what happened? And then all of a sudden, there's 2 people walking in front of us. This is the part of the story you don't know about.
You didn't tell me this part.
Okay, so they're meeting us, okay? And as I was saying, I was with my ex at the time, so just 2 of us, we're just dying to get going. We were looking forward to get the Krispy Kreme in Blanchardstown, where like, now we're going home to our countries, like. And I'm there walking, and I can see 2 people, so I kind of look at him, and I'm like not saying anything because I'm on the phone to Mum. And I was like, do you mind sitting on the phone? She's like, oh yeah, you know, and you know how long of a walk it is.
Yeah, it's about
I want to say
20 minutes, half an hour.
It's near a half hour.
Yeah.
It depends on how slow you are. We're slow, okay? So
If you take the wrong way, it's a little bit longer.
So it's about half an hour. And we're walking down, and all of a sudden we see these 2 people. Like I said, there's no flashlights on.
Yeah.
Okay? And we're just walking. We only have flashlights on our phones. Silly move. So that's it. Keep going. They're getting closer. And as I would do, I didn't want to be looking, so I kept my head down, and it was kind of as they passed us, I glanced, and so did my ex, and we both looked, and I saw something, but I didn't want to say anything until we got back to the car.
Yeah.
So we kept on walking, and he goes to me, "Did you see their eyes?" And I said, "What?" And it was the same thought in my head, and I was like, "We need to get the fuck out of here."
Crazy.
Sorry, I'm gonna bleep that out. And their eyes were jet black, Corey. There was no white in their eye. Hold on. We keep on walking. You imagine they're walking back up to the Hellfire Club. They're not walking down with us.
They're not coming from it, they're going to it.
They're going to it. So we're walking.
And what time would this have been?
This was now, I want to say, like, you're thinking now, night time, around November, late November, early December maybe, and it was about 8:30. So it's quite jet black,
it would have been pitch black at that point.
And we are walking back down, you can see the car park, and who's there? The same two people we met on the way up. Corey, there was no explanation for that. I literally saw the car and we ran, like we bolted, and it was as obvious as anything. But we got into the car and they just stood there looking at us. They had no car with them. And I'm like, where did they come from? Why are they there? Now, we couldn't see their eyes from that distance. Because I know a lot of people are like, could you see their eyes? Couldn't see their eyes. But, like, very unsettling vibe off these people. And I'm like, how did they get back down? Because they had to walk back up to the top and go back down.
Yeah.
We didn't meet them on the way. And as you know, there's only kind of 2 tracks up.
There's 2 tracks, but there's a loop. But the loop brings you way out through the woods. Yeah. Which would be probably... longer. I think it's 8 kilometres or something like that. So it would have been a very long walk. So how did they get there before we did? There's no way. I don't know. And that was my frightening experience. I was absolutely lost for words. I was so frightened by it. And then obviously went back and heard the get out, and I was like, now I know why I was being pushed out the door. They didn't want me there, and I'd say it was because I was a woman, because it was a men's lodge only. Club,
they were like, I don't like your energy.
And when you played that recording for me earlier on, you were telling me to listen out for this get out, and I heard, after you'd said, is there anyone, can you make yourself known? I heard what sounded like someone going, ah. Yeah, it was like a grunt, like as if someone was either saying like as if something was manifesting to say get out. That, or very much angered by me being there. Yeah. Do you know? And again, it could have been my vibe, my energy in that as well, where it's like, you're of love and light and we're not of that, and it's like, why is this something that's the opposite of us here? Yeah, why would you even come in here? But what I'm now thinking, it's only after coming into my head, what if that grunt I was hearing was, I'm going to have to listen to this again when I go home, but what if that was the cat? Sorry to laugh. I know, but like, I know, you just don't know, like, I just find that it's just crazy. It's just weird. Well, that is my little experience with the Hellfire Club. I think it's time we wrap this episode up. Yeah. I might have gone a little over the hour mark, but I hope people enjoyed listening to this, because we don't really talk about this when we're in the shop. No, we don't. We kind of keep this quiet to ourselves, but I think letting people hear that if they had a story, they're not like the only person, and that they're not mad if they think they're mad. Yeah, there's good and bad and everywhere. Like, we obviously have had good experiences. Yeah. And don't worry, not every week is going to be a bit paranormal. Next week now we're doing a whole different topic altogether. It's not going to be on paranormal at all. And it'll change the following week again. And then we'll go back to something else, maybe another old wives' tale or some Irish mythology or something. But thank you so much for listening to our podcast, and it was a pleasure again, Corey. It was amazing to be here, chatting about what we love chatting about. Exactly. Paranormal just goes back to our childhood, like, it does. And it's just listening to. It's what stories. We both connected on when we originally met was the paranormal, and we were so excited for this episode. Yeah. So thank you for joining us and tuning in, and be sure to tune in next week. And also, don't be afraid to send us in a question for next week's episode. We didn't get to cover one in this one, but we'll do it next week. We'll definitely cover something next week. And just email us at themistyrambles@gmail.com, or even send it in on our Instagrams. Yeah, absolutely. We'll take a screenshot and we'll remember them. Yeah, whether it's our personal ones or the Misty Hollows. Yeah. So we will see you next week. See you next week. Thank you for tuning in. Bye. Have a lovely day.